Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Imagine you're a CIA case officer in the highlands of Laos or a secret interrogation site in the Sahara. You have an asset who claims to have high-level intelligence, but you suspect he's a double agent. You need a polygraph, but there's no power grid, no batteries that haven't leaked in the humidity, no steady current. In the digital age, we think of lie detection as a matter of sensors and software, but in the early Cold War, the agency turned to clockwork. This is the story of the Wigmore Polygraph, based on document number CIA RDP78-04007A001200040003-8. This wasn't just a piece of equipment, it was a masterpiece of mechanical engineering. It was a machine designed to map the human soul using nothing but air pressure and ink. The Wigmore was a cardio-pneumo-galvanograph without the galvano. It relied entirely on pneumatics. A quote from a CIA technical specifications. The Wigmore device utilizes a series of sensitive rubber bellows connected via high-pressure tubing to a 3-pen recording arm. The movement of the subject's thoracic cavity and the arterial pulse pressure are translated directly into mechanical motion, driving the styly across a hand-cranked or spring-wound chart drive, end quote. Think about the precision required to capture the minute jump in blood pressure when a man lies. The Wigmore used a system of tambours, small drum-like membranes that would amplify the physical vibrations of the heart. The examiner would wind the device like a grandfather clock, and as the gears turned, the truth was literally etched into a rolling spool of paper. The device was uniquely sensitive to environmental factors. Because it relied on air pressure, examiners had to manually calibrate the 0 point for different altitudes. A polygraph test conducted in the Andes required a completely different set of tension springs than one conducted at sea level in the Mekong Delta. If the examiner forgot to adjust for the barometric pressure, the pens would simply fall off the paper, or worse, register a false deception spike that could cost a man his life. The CIA didn't just build the machine, they built the field truth protocols to go with it. Because the machine was mechanical, it was silent. It didn't hum, it didn't glow. This gave the examiner a psychological edge. The Wigmore protocol suggested that the examiner emphasize the ancient and inescapable nature of the machine. Case officers were told to describe the bellows as sensing the breath of life. A quote from the field examiner's manual: "The psychological impact of the mechanical recording is often more effective than electronic versions. The subject can see the physical movement of the bellows responding to his heart, creating a feedback loop of anxiety that the examiner must exploit." End quote. The document highlights that the theater of the Wigmore was essential. Examiners were encouraged to let the subject watch the clockwork being wound. The clicking of the ratchet served as a countdown, a rhythmic reminder that the window for honesty was closing. When we look at this document, the most startling redactions occur in a section titled, quote, "Adaptations for Non-Consensual Use," end quote. Strict speculation. There are 3 pages completely blacked out regarding the, quote, "sensitivity calibration," end quote, of the Wigmore style. Speculation among intelligence historians suggests these pages detail how the device could be modified to be hypersensitive, potentially used in conjunction with pharmaceutical inducements, what we know now as truth serums. The redactions likely hide the exact dosages required to make the physiological response unmaskable by even the most trained sleeper agents. Strict speculation. Further speculation suggests that the redactions cover a tactile feedback modification. It is believed the agency experimented with a version of the Wigmore that would vibrate or kick against the subject's skin when a physiological spike was detected, essentially using the machine to physically intimidate the subject into a confession. The blueprints for these active feedback bellows remain classified to this day. There is a specific, heavily blacked out paragraph following the description of the, quote, "cuff assembly." Historians speculate this refers to a hidden sensor variant, a version of the Wigmore that could be built into a chair or a table, allowing the agency to monitor a subject's heart rate without them ever knowing a polygraph was in the room. This would allow for passive vetting during seemingly casual recruitment dinners. Was the Wigmore a success? Technically, yes, it remained in the CIA's inventory well into the 1970s. It was rugged, it was portable, and it could survive being dropped out of a plane into a swamp. In terms of truth extraction, its success rate was comparable to the electronic polygraphs of the era, which is to say, it was as much about the skill of the interrogator as it was about the machine. One of the major failures recorded in the logs wasn't the machine's logic, but its physical composition. In tropical climates, the rubber bellows were prone to vulcanization, or melting, and the ink in the pens would frequently clog due to high humidity. The document notes that several, quote, critical interrogations, end quote, had to be abandoned because the recording medium became a slurry of blue sludge. Quote from the 1962 field report, the Wigmore performed admirably until the third hour, at which point the tropical heat caused the drive spring to lose tension. The resulting chart was compressed, rendering the cardio tracings illegible. Recommend future models use synthetic polymers for all bellows assemblies, end quote. The legacy of the Wigmore is found in the hardened tradecraft of the modern agency. Technological breakthroughs. The Wigmore led to the development of zero-power sensors. The agency learned how to harness mechanical energy to power recording devices, a precursor to the bugs that would later be powered by the very radio waves they were designed to intercept. It proved that in intelligence, high tech isn't always best tech. Operational breakthroughs, it birthed the remote screening concept. Before the Wigmore assets had to be brought to a station or a safe house for vetting, the Wigmore allowed the CIA to conduct vetting at the point of contact. This drastically reduced the risk of bringing uncleared individuals into sensitive agency facilities. The Wigmore project also pioneered the cold chain logistics for espionage equipment. Because the pens and bellows were so delicate, the agency developed specialized shock-proof carrying cases that would eventually be used to transport everything from sensitive film to biological samples. The Wigmore Polygraph is a reminder that the search for truth is an old mechanical struggle. It is the sound of air moving in a tube, the scratch of a pen, and the pounding of a human heart. In the CIA Museum at Langley, there is a Wigmore on display. It is polished, silent, and still functional. If you wound it today, it would still be able to map the panic and your pulse. Next time on CIA Declassified, we move from the interior of the human heart to the deep, cold mud beneath the streets of East Berlin. We examine the Operation Gold tunnel logs. Based on declassified engineering reports, we go inside the most ambitious wiretap in history, a tunnel dug directly into the Soviet sector to tap the primary communication lines of the Red Army. We'll explore the acoustic shielding failures and the terrifying realization that the Soviets knew the CIA was there for over a year before they struck. Join us for the Berlin dig. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.